For 10 years, Victor and I were the couple who made it work. That's what people said anyway. We shared rent, dreams, routines, disappointments, and occasional midnight takeout on the couch when everything else felt too heavy. We never got married, but it didn't matter. It felt permanent. Our lives were so woven together, it was hard to tell where he ended and I began. We bought a house, a little fixer-upper with charm and possibility. I paid the down payment. I signed the deed. It was in my name, but I never once threw that in his face. I thought love meant you didn't keep score. I planted lavender out front, painted the guest room myself, even picked out the drawer pulls in the kitchen like it actually meant something. Everyone thought we were inseparable, and maybe, for a while, we were. But then something shifted. He started pulling away, not all at once, but like a slow retreat. Shorter hugs, longer silences. More time on his phone, less time looking me in the eye. I told myself it was just a rough patch, but deep down, I think he already knew. He didn't see a rough patch, he saw a way out. I started noticing the little things first. His toothbrush stayed dry some mornings. He stopped asking about my day, and when I'd tell him anyway, I'd catch him nodding like he was listening, but his eyes were somewhere else entirely. And the worst part? I stopped asking where he went. It's wild how quickly silence can become the norm when you're afraid of the answer. I held on to our routines like they were life rafts, Sunday pancakes, our favorite show on Wednesdays, birthday dinners with just the two of us. I kept showing up thinking if I just tried harder, he might meet me halfway. But every conversation felt like walking on eggshells. Every hug felt like a habit, not a want. It's heartbreaking to miss someone who's still right there beside you. Sometimes at night, I'd lie awake and replay memories like movies in my head. The laughter, the road trips, the way he used to kiss my forehead like it meant something. I clung to those pieces because I was scared of what came next. I didn't want to admit it, but the man I fell in love with, he'd already left. He just hadn't packed his bags yet. I told myself relationships go through seasons, that maybe he was stressed, tired, going through something he didn't know how to talk about. So I gave him space. I made excuses for him. I carried the weight of us on my own shoulders, thinking love meant patience, thinking time would fix what distance was quietly unraveling. But the truth? He wasn't struggling. He was checking out, slipping away in plain sight while I stood there, holding the pieces, pretending nothing was breaking. I saw it in the way he avoided eye contact, in how he stopped reaching for my hand in the car. We used to talk about the future. Now, he barely talked at all. I wish I could say I saw it coming. But when you've built a life with someone, when you've shared birthdays, losses, inside jokes, a mortgage, you don't imagine it all just ends. I thought it was just a rough patch. He thought it was the perfect exit. It happened on a Tuesday. No storm, no shouting, no tears. Just the clink of silverware and the hum of the fridge in the background. We were having dinner. Something simple, like it always was. He didn't even look up when he said it. "I think I want another life," he muttered, like he was asking for more salt. Something freer, less tied down. I didn't speak right away. I remember how quiet the room got, how the words just hung there between us, like smoke that wouldn't clear. My chest tightened, but not from heartbreak, from clarity. This was it. The thing I'd been dreading and denying had finally taken shape. And oddly, I didn't feel panic. I felt still. He kept eating, like the conversation was over, like he'd dropped a bomb and assumed I'd just nod and say okay, but I didn't. I set my fork down slowly, looked him right in the eye, and said, "I've been thinking the same thing." No yelling, no begging, just that one sentence. And in that moment, I watched his entire expression shift. He blinked. Once, then again, like he didn't quite hear me right. I could see it in his face, the way confusion turned into something smug, almost amused. He leaned back, arms crossed, like he was trying to figure out if I was bluffing. But I wasn't. I meant every word. I'd been holding on so tightly for so long, I hadn't realized how ready I was to let go. There was something oddly empowering about that silence. He had expected a meltdown, tears, accusations, maybe even a desperate plea to stay. But what he got was composure, control, a woman who didn't need him to finish the sentence for her. For once, I wasn't reacting to him. I was standing in my own truth. He tried to steer the conversation, to make it sound like it was mutual. But the way his voice wavered told me everything. He thought he'd broken the news, that he'd taken the reins. But deep down, I could tell. He wasn't ready for this version of me. Calm, unbothered, done. He sat there in that stunned silence, fork frozen midair, like the script had been flipped and no one warned him. I almost laughed, not out of spite, but out of the absurdity of it all. After everything, he still thought he was the one calling the shots, that walking away from me meant he was in control of the story. He had no idea I'd already written my ending. I cleared the table like it was any other night, washed the dishes, wiped down the counter. Not because I was pretending things were fine, but because I refused to let him see me rattle. I'd spent too long giving him pieces of myself. That night, I started taking them back in quiet, deliberate steps. He thought he ended it on his terms. He didn't know I'd finish it on mine. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. No alarm, no rush, just a strange sense of clarity humming under my skin. He was already out, probably assuming I'd be home, waiting. I didn't cry. I didn't even hesitate. I poured myself a coffee, walked through every room we'd shared, and started packing the pieces of my life. I didn't take everything, only what was mine, the chair my mom gave me, the quilt I'd sewn during lockdown, the stack of books he never touched. I left the espresso machine he loved, the watch I bought him last Christmas, even the records he insisted we needed but never played. I wasn't trying to hurt him. I was just done giving. Then I opened the drawer by the front door, the one where we kept loose keys and take-out menus, and pulled out the folder I had tucked there months ago. The deed to the house, stamped, notarized, legally binding. My name, just mine. And suddenly, it didn't feel like just paperwork. It felt like freedom. It's funny how quickly a home turns into just a house. The couch we used to curl up on looked smaller somehow. The walls, quieter. I stood in the hallway where we used to kiss goodnight and realized I couldn't remember the last time he'd kissed me like he meant it. I didn't feel angry. I felt released. Like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally exhaled. I grabbed a pen from the kitchen drawer, tore a page from an old grocery list, and scribbled down one last message. Nothing dramatic, just the truth. Since you want another life, you won't need this house. That was it. No guilt, no explanation. Just a sentence he couldn't argue with. I folded it in half and placed it next to the remote, right where he'd see it first. Before walking out, I took one last look at the living room. Our so-called life. The mismatched throw pillows, the leaning plant stand, the photo of us on the bookshelf that I somehow didn't grab. I closed the door softly behind me. No slam, no ceremony, just the clean sound of a chapter ending. I slid the key under the welcome mat, not for him, but for me. A final gesture to say, I'm not coming back. I didn't leave in anger. I left in clarity. For too long I had built a life around we while he fantasized about me. And now I was finally choosing my version of freedom, not loud, not bitter, just mine. I walked down the steps with the deed tucked safely in my bag, not because I needed it, but because it reminded me who I was before him. The woman who built something out of nothing, who gave, trusted, forgave, and who now knew exactly what she was taking with her and what she was choosing to leave behind. He let go of me, thinking he'd won something. But the truth? I let go of him first. The only difference was, I kept the foundation. That night, I imagine he came home expecting chaos. Maybe a confrontation, maybe tears. I'm sure he rehearsed a speech on the drive back, something polished to ease his guilt or at least defend his choice. But when he opened the door, what he found was silence. No suitcase by the door, no notes begging for clarity, just an eerie kind of calm. The air felt different. I know it did. The scent of my lavender diffuser was gone. The hum of my playlist wasn't drifting through the hallway. My shoes were missing from the rack. My side of the closet stood hollow. All the small things that made me me had vanished, and in their place, a quiet he wasn't ready for. And then he saw it, the envelope. Thick, white, unmistakably legal. Right on the kitchen table where I used to leave his birthday cards and Sunday grocery lists. Inside, no anger, just facts. A copy of the deed with my name in bold, a forwarding address, and a note that simply read, "Thanks for showing me exactly when to leave." I wasn't there to see his face, but I can picture it. That tightening in his jaw when the weight of it all hit him. The silence pressing in from the walls we once painted together. He probably read the note twice, maybe 3 times, hoping there was some hidden meaning. There wasn't. It said exactly what it needed to. Nothing more. I imagine he called me. Of course he did. Probably expecting me to answer on the second ring like I always used to. But this time, I didn't. I watched the screen light up, felt nothing, and let it fade. No messages, no closure. Some doors aren't slammed shut. They're just never opened again. He even drove to my new place once. Parked outside, stared at the front door for 20 minutes. I saw him from the window, hands in his pockets, pacing, waiting. But I didn't move. I didn't owe him the scene he was hoping for. He chose to walk away. I just chose to make it permanent. That was the last time I saw him, standing on the sidewalk like a man suddenly realizing what he gave up. He didn't knock. He didn't call again. Maybe he finally understood that this wasn't some temporary pause. This was the ending. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, just a woman reclaiming her peace. I didn't cry when he left. Not that night, not the next day. I didn't stare at old pictures or draft unsent texts. I'd already mourned the relationship while I was still in it. So when he finally let go, I wasn't broken. I was already healing. And that healing came with a quiet power he never saw coming. He asked for freedom. I gave him silence. Life didn't fall apart after him. It finally fell into place. I focused on work, took weekend trips alone, said yes to things I used to put off for his sake. I started sleeping better, laughing more. There was space again, not just in my closet or my schedule, but in my spirit. And in that space, I found parts of myself I didn't even realize I'd buried. People began to notice. Friends would pull me aside, eyebrows raised. "You seem lighter," they'd say. And I was. Not because I had someone new, not because I'd moved on in the way people usually mean, but because I finally stopped carrying someone who had no intention of walking beside me. I stopped shrinking so he could feel taller. Months later, a mutual friend asked me why I never told anyone what happened, why I just vanished from that chapter without warning. I smiled. Not bitter, not smug, just sure. He wanted a new life, I said. I just gave him a head start, with nothing. I heard through the grapevine that he's living in a tiny apartment now, one of those places where the kitchen's also the living room, and the windows face a brick wall. He tells people I changed overnight, that I just up and left like I was never really invested. I don't bother correcting him. Let him tell whatever story helps him sleep at night. The truth? I didn't change overnight. I changed slowly, painfully, deliberately, over years of being unseen, unheard, unloved. And when the moment came to walk away, I didn't flinch, because by then I knew. The hardest part wasn't leaving. It was staying for as long as I did, hoping he'd notice. Sometimes I pass by our old street. The garden's overgrown now. The paint on the porch is peeling. It used to break my heart. Now, it reminds me of what happens when you stop nurturing something. I gave him a life, a home, a chance. And when he walked away, I didn't chase him. I handed him exactly what he asked for. He thought I was the soft place he could land until something better came along. What he never realized was, I was the whole foundation. The steady, quiet force behind everything he called stability. And the moment I stopped giving, he had nothing left to stand on. That's not cruelty. That's consequence. I don't hate him. I don't wish him harm. But I do hope, one day, he sits in that quiet apartment and understands what he walked away from, not out of regret, but out of recognition. Because for once in his life, maybe he'll learn that not everyone waits to be chosen. Some of us choose ourselves. He says I changed. I didn't. I just stopped giving to someone who never planned to stay.